All right, everybody, it is 7 o'clock, and I'm attempting to run a tight ship here. Welcome. Thank you for attending. If you don't already know me, I am Edwin Rosenberg, editor. That was not an applause line. I'm the editor of the Tewksbury Times and the executive director of Tewksbury Connect. The mission of Tewksbury Connect is to increase connections among the residents of Tewksbury Township by sharing information and public education while encouraging participation from the next generation of community leaders. We're very excited to be hosting this forum for our local candidates for Township Committee. This is our first ever candidates night, so if there's a couple of bugs that we haven't worked out, we hope you'll be forgiving. Before we begin, I want to introduce the board members of Tewksbury Connect. Our president, Alex Obershin. Secretary, Donna Lance. And treasurer, Brian Flegg. These are the people behind the scenes who are working to guide the organization. Our timekeeper for this evening is Zach Zamara. Zach is an OTS graduate and currently high school senior at Voorhees. There, he is involved in cross-country, tennis, the Future Business Leaders of America Club, and the jazz band. He has succeeded in the classroom, where he is a National Merit Commended Scholar and has received the AP Scholar with Distinction Award. Zach has also interned for the past 5 years with Whittemore CCC, where he assists the board director with events and community outreach programs. Our audio system tonight is courtesy of Neil Wiltshire. Thank you, Neil, who has generously volunteered his expertise and equipment to make sure everyone can hear. So if you can't hear, let us know, and Neil will do some magic and make it all better. And in the back of the room, we are also video recording. As soon as we can, our new webmaster, James Draper, another great high school senior, will post the video on our website, www.tewksburyconnect.org. And we will also give the raw footage to all of the candidates to use for their own purposes. The candidates, seated in alphabetical order, are Robert Becker, Deborah Bonami, Andrew Fingerman, Andrea Maranka, and William Voice. Our moderator for the evening is Ralph Blakesley. That may be a familiar name to some. Ralph was Tewksbury Township's administrator from 1992 to 1999. For the last 17 years, he has served as the Netcong Borough Administrator and Deputy Borough Clerk. He is also the borough's zoning officer, public agency compliance officer, and serves as the borough's commissioner to the Morris County Joint Insurance Fund. Ralph has been an adjunct professor in the Political Science Department of Montclair State University, teaching public personnel administration, governmental budgeting, and public policy analysis. He has also led several class sessions of Rutgers University and the state of New Jersey's Certified Public Managers Program, including human resource management, budget process, and financial management, and project management. And he has led courses on ethics and government. Ralph was also co-owner of RGB Consulting, LLC, which was the first entity authorized to provide online continuing education credits by the Division of Local Government Services for municipal clerks, CFOs, tax collectors, and certified public works managers. We are very happy to have Ralph helping us out tonight. So thank you, Ralph. We are in your hands.
I have a bit of a booming voice, so if I don't need amplification, please let me know. I don't want to cause anyone to go deaf. Thank you again, Edwin. It's a great pleasure to be back in Tewksbury. I actually travel through the town quite often on my way into work, so Tewksbury has always been, I've always had a great fondness for this township. It gave me my start in terms of administration, public administration. I don't know how many of you remember Harlan Welsh. Yes, he was my boss, and I was hired by on his recommendation, and he was a great mentor. And a bit of a stern taskmaster, but he was very good, and I had a great relationship with him, and I have very fond memories of working here in the township. I want to quickly run down the procedures we will follow. First, we'll have an opening statement by each of the candidates, followed by questions. We have 10 questions tonight, which were sent in to Tewksbury Connect by Tewksbury residents. Several questions received covered similar topics, so those questions were consolidated. The others were directed specifically to one candidate and were edited so that they would apply to all of the candidates. Edwin's has given me some great cribbage notes. All right, the process that we will follow is that I will begin with Mr. Becker, who, in terms of his opening statements. Then I will address the same question to each candidate in alphabetical order. The second question will then begin with Ms. Benani. Please, if I massacre your names, please call me out. And so forth, so that each candidate will have an opportunity to be the first one to answer a question. That way, one person isn't constantly opening the questioning, responding to the questions, and one person is not constantly closing. Candidates will be allowed up to 2 minutes for each response. Zach will hold up a sign to indicate when 30 seconds occurs. And then the time sign, which will be signaled the end of 2 minutes. I want to remind everyone that this is not a debate. There will be no rebuttal. It will simply be a statement of the candidate's position on the questions. I want to remind everyone that is, and we're going to keep it civil. All right. So we drew lots, and Edwin, where are you? There you are, thank you. The first person is going to start is Mr. Becker, correct? So please go right ahead.
Thank you. Thank you.
You can move that.
I was advised not to because of the camera, but that's okay. Thank you all for coming, first of all. The turnout is fabulous, and I think it shows your engagement and your investment in our town. Robert Becker. I've lived here up on Beavers Road since 2004, and I'm very happy to be here, and actually I'm very happy to see all of you. I served you a few years back on the Township Committee. I enjoyed that, and I'd like to serve you again. So if we can put this in a construct of kind of a job interview, I'm here to tell you why I want to serve, tell you what I see as some risks, challenges, and tell you some of my experiences. There's a lot I've tried to put out on my website. Some of you that don't know me, I am someone that tries to invest the time to come prepared, kind of understand choices, try to understand the outsider's perspective of, well, how might they see it or what might they have done? There's a couple solutions I've put out there. They're not solutions to act upon, but I want to promote the conversation and dialogue. So I'd ask you to take a look at the website. I try to keep things tight. For instance, I put together a COA primer, an affordable housing primer, a brief history of what I see as since about 2005, what we've struggled with and some of our challenges and mandates. It's a 3-minute read. I'm trying to keep it tight because we're all very busy. We have children, we have families, sometimes parents, and we have jobs. So I'd like you to take a look at it, and I also have contact information. I'm sure we all have it. It's a reach-out effort. We're all very busy. Why am I running? I think we can do a better job on accountability. I see risks in this town that the township has done and taken action, but they've acted in a siloed capacity. The threats I see to us are we have an affordable housing and a mandate from the state to do things, specifically around stormwater. If you see I've posted on the website, we've got affordable housing, and the Township Committee and the Affordable Housing Subcommittee has selected the Hildebrandt and Wine Store property and behind there as a 61 to 300 unit property development. That is the only place in town in our affordable housing plan. I just mentioned that I try to do a lot of research. I also primary source things. So everything I share with you tonight, I will be happy to share primary source documents, and I even post some of them to the website. Because I want you to read and understand, because you probably have some good ideas you can share. Getting back to the Township Committee, they've made decisions that are going to impact us, but our neighbors, Reddington, have as well. There's a 225-unit housing development going on Halls Mill Road next to Chubb, and there's another 250 planned at Unicom Merck. That will impact us. You may say how? Well, roads, etc. But I also see it's going to impact our schools. Why is that? Because Tewksbury K-8 is an open enrollment district. We have almost 30 non-resident students that come here, and we still have capacity for more, and we cannot deny them. Now, that's a school board issue. You're absolutely right, K-8 school board. So all those candidates that have put something out, I'm going to ask them. I'd like to know where they stand on the Tewksbury K-8 being a receiving district, because we're losing money for every child. $15,000 a year per child we lose, because the state only reimburses us $13,000. What can the township do about it? Well, all they can do is basically do a sense of the township, a resolution. We do it all the time. We did it all the time to pass ordinances and to pass things up to the county and the state. What do we feel as a town? Your township committee, and I will serve you, and I have served you, to try to gather the sense of what you feel and what might be the best path today. It may change in a year, but the best path. So I see the external risks to affordable housing, and affordable housing coming in at the Stavola and Wine Store property are going to impact Oldwick Sewer. It's a legacy system, one of the last lagoon-based systems in the state that has no more capacity at 84%. Any developer that comes in says, I'm going to build 300 units at the Wine Store, or is going to have to put in a sewer plant. But they have one next door at Norwest Cap behind the firehouse, and they have one in Oldwick. State DEP is going to say, why do you have three? Merge them all. That's the long-range plan I want and we need to put in place. We cannot act as an individual township, but as a representative for all. The Oldwick Sewer Authority, the K-8 districts, every particular volunteer group here, and we have to have an infrastructure and long-range plan together. I'd like to do that for you, and that's why I'm asking to serve again. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bonomi?
No, me.
Bonomi, thank you.
That's okay. Good evening, everyone. And like Robert said, thank you very much for coming out today and taking the time to get to know all of us a little better. I'm proud to call Tewksbury home. My husband Joe and I have raised our two daughters in Tewksbury, both strong, kind, and leaders in their own right. We've spent years on the sideline of our softball fields, Tewksbury, all of the sports fields, school events, and giving back to the community. I've served as vice president of the North Huntington Voorhees Regional High School Board for 3 years, was on it for 4, representing both Tewksbury and Califon. I volunteered on the Women's Auxiliary for the Pottersville Fire Department, and I've served on several boards, kind of like property owner boards, etc. Wherever there's a need, I have always stepped in, because I believe strongly that a strong community is built by those who step up. I've spent my life learning how to build a family, build businesses, build communities, and build teams. And now I'm ready to build a stronger Tewksbury. I have a strong background in public service, in learning and development, in training, building strategic plans for both private organizations as well as for governments across the United States, as well as operationalizing those plans so that we know how to implement and we know how to track them and keep us all accountable. I'm stepping up now because I feel like Tewksbury is definitely at a turning point. There's growth, there's infrastructure needs, there's state mandates, and there's tax burdens, and there's pressures that are here. And how we plan today will determine how we not only face those, but how we thrive in the future. We need thoughtful, forward-thinking leadership that blends experience with a fresh perspective. Leadership that doesn't divide by party, but unites by purpose. I'm not here to play politics. I'm here to serve. I'm here to collaborate with whoever is on the Township Committee. I'm here to plan, and I'm here to build a future that reflects the values and the voice of every Tewksbury resident. So if you vote for me and put me on the Tewksbury Township Committee, I promise you that I will collaborate and build our future together with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fingerman.
Thank you. And thank you to Edwin, the Tewksbury Connect, Tewksbury Times, fellow candidates for Township Committee, Ralph, Zach, thank you all for your support and effort this evening to put this on. My name is Andrew Fingerman, a resident of Tewksbury Township. I live on Rockaway Road. I'm very proud to call Tewksbury home. My wife, Rachel, and I moved here 5 years ago, comparatively very, very fresh to the rest of the folks up here. But that doesn't mean that I'm not invested the same and care as much about this community. We're raising 2 kids in our school system right now, one here at OTS and one at TES. And that does inform a lot of my thinking and platform for this candidacy. That being said, I've been very open and eager to hear from residents about what they care about. And that's helped me develop my platform for Tewksbury Township Committee. And there's 3 key prongs to my platform. The first is proactive preservation. As you heard from Robert and Deb, we have affordable housing mandates and other crunches on our town that are being forced upon us. And the reality is that there's one constant in our world, and that's change. But the reality is that change can happen to you or change can happen for you. And that's what proactive preservation for me is all about. How do we plan intelligently and informed for our future to make this town as great as it has been for many decades and many generations into the future? To do that, we need to take a look at the Township Master Plan, which hasn't been updated significantly or meaningfully in over 20 years. And in that time, a lot has changed. The affordable housing mandates, from our commitments that this town has made a decade and a half ago and haven't necessarily really delivered on, puts us in a very tough spot. And so what we need to do is bring our community together, putting politics aside, as Deb said, and come up with solutions together in a way that works for everybody. There will be tough choices, as Robert mentioned, but it's important that we bring people along for that ride. And to that end, a second pillar for me is all about transparency and governance. Our town and our residents deserve to know the details, the nuance of the decisions being made, the policies that are being pursued, and these decisions of where we're going to put the affordable housing units and the impacts they're going to have. The town needs to be brought along with that. And for example, I'm not sure how many folks know tonight, but right now, the town is considering pulling us as a district, school district, out of being a Voorhees sending district. And we have right in front of us a shining example of what a Voorhees product could be. I myself have relatives who are attending Voorhees High School, graduates of Voorhees High School. We bought our house here because this is a Voorhees sending district. Now, that's not to say that we shouldn't explore tax benefits and different things that could benefit our larger community, but parents of young children, school-age children, need to be brought along for that conversation. In addition to that, community safety is of utmost importance, and I don't say that as to suggest we don't live in a very safe community. Of course we do, but our roadways, our trees, these are all things that need addressing, as well as the floodwaters and water mitigation. And so finally, what I want to ask, as your neighbor, as a fellow neighbor, who's running to bring a different perspective and a new generation to the Township Committee, is tell us, all of us, let's engage together on what this town needs. There's so much that we can put forward in our own ideas, but you should know that we are open ears. I am open ears and listening and eagerly anticipating what the community has to say. So thank you for your time. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to earning your vote tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Fingerman. Now, Ms. Maraca.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here today. My name is Andrea Maranka, and I am grateful and privileged to represent the people of Tewksbury, New Jersey. I am currently seeking re-election for a third term on the Tewksbury Township Committee, and I'm asking for your support. For those of you who may not know me, I would like to share a little bit about myself and my background, along with my commitment to our community. I have been a resident of Tewksbury for 34 years, having moved here with my husband, Michael, and our family on October 31st, 1991. We immediately knew Tewksbury would be the perfect home for us. Since then, I raised 3 daughters and established a luxury wine shop over 20 years ago, which I still operate today with my youngest daughter, Elizabeth. My involvement in the community began soon after we moved here in September 1993. I became a proud Daisy Brown leader for a group of 10 girls, including my daughter Amanda, and the group remained together for 8 years. Concurrently, I was elected to the school board as a write-in candidate, serving until December 2001. I actively strive to support every volunteer organization in town. Before becoming a mother and moving to Tewksbury, I was employed at NASDAQ, where I was responsible for releasing new issues for trading. I left NASDAQ in April 1987 to begin my new life as a stay-at-home mom. At the present time, I serve on several boards. I am on the Land Use Board and have been for 8 years. I serve on the Affordable Housing Committee, the Firehouse Subcommittee that services all of Tewksbury, the Department of Public Works, and have recently joined the Communications Committee to support the bond referendum to continue to have our schools competitive. I will continue to give 100%. We are all part of the community, and we all work very well together. We all know issues arise. With my experience as a committee person, business owner in town, along with my other attributes, I'm prepared and continue to be committed to take on a myriad of challenges due to my unique perspective. I will do what's best for Tewksbury, as I always have done in the past. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Mr. Voice?
Thank you. Thank you for all being here tonight, and thank you for this ability to talk to everyone that came tonight. I've been a resident here for 40 years. I came here as a result of my mother-in-law's sister, who lived in Pottersville in the 60s and 70s, telling us what a great place Pottersville was and Tewksbury, and how well it would be to raise a family here and be a part of a good community that really hasn't changed in the past so many years. In fact, when my wife's first cousins come back and they look around, they say, well, not much has changed. I said, well, that's great, because we don't want much to change. We want Tewksbury to remain Tewksbury. So in the 40 years that I've been here, I've served in several capacities, Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, district level, council level. I've also served 6 years in the Tewksbury Board of Education during the time we were building the new school. In the time that I've been on Township Committee, a lot has changed, and especially our affordable housing plan and things like that. And part of that is, in 2006, KHAV had a plan ahead just south of 78 on the east side and the west side of 517 there. And they wanted to put in 250 to 300 homes. Basically, at the result of the end of that year, they found it was too environmentally sensitive on the eastbound side to put that kind of high-density housing in place, and they removed their application. Fast forward, the state decides they don't want to have the COA plan anymore. They, in fact, they eliminated all of COA. The Council of Affordable Housing became no more, and they punted it to the court system. So we were involved in the court system and court masters, and they were telling us, well, we have a place for you to put 220 places. And guess what? It was that eastbound side and the westbound side underneath that bridge, just below 78. Well, we said no. The township committee at the time realized, well, 220 homes is way too much. First off, it wouldn't fit there, and it wouldn't work there. So the township committee at the time decided to step out of the court system and go on our own. Having said that, that put us in a little bit of a jeopardy because we didn't have the same legal stance that anybody else had that went through a court system. But if we agreed to the 220, what they told us was that build what you can, and the other part of it will be what they called an unmet need. We viewed that as an IOU. I don't want to owe the state that kind of numbers, because that opens you up to builders' remedies and other things. So in 2016, I started the Affordable Housing Subcommittee. And that subcommittee was put in place to figure out our own plan, to go our own way, because affordable housing did not take into effect that we were in the Highlands. And the Highlands started in 2004, and that greatly reduced the ability to build anything in town, putting 2/3 of our properties in preservation and 1/3 in a building or planning zone, which is really just south of Oldwick there, where most of the affordable housing is kept today. So having said that, coming forward, the housing plan itself is a fluid document. In order to have high-density housing, you need to have water and you need to have sewer. We don't have either. The capacity in Oldwick is pretty much used up. There's a little bit of capacity left by the UCP building where the firehouse is and that, but that's going to go to something we plan behind the firehouse, which should meet our COA needs. So as far as that's concerned, yes, there's a concern. We're addressing it, and we're working really hard and diligently to make sure that Tewksbury does not become the Reddington, or Long Valley just approved something, or Clinton just approved something of substantial homes that really does not fit or work here at all. So my mission is to keep Tewksbury, Tewksbury. And I appreciate it if you could help me by doing that, by voting me in again. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Edwin, I just want to confirm, who is starting the questions now? Mr. Becker? Okay, so the way we'll do this is Mr. Becker will start, each candidate will have 2 minutes, and then when we get to the second question, you will start, and we'll go down the line that way. All right, so the first question is about cell phone use. And cell phone use has moved from a luxury to becoming a necessity of life. There are many areas in the township that receive spotty or no cell phone service at all. And I can attest to that as a traveler through the town, and so can my wife. The situation ranges from inconvenient to annoying or to dangerous, as there are places where one could not call for help in an emergency. Simply expecting everyone to maintain a landline in addition to a cell phone is not a solution. But because we do not live our lives within our houses. What steps would you suggest that the township should take to remedy this situation? And we'll start with Mr. Becker.
Yes. Thank you. For the cell phone use, the mobile use, some of you remember last March the near tragedy with the school bus accident and the tree branch falling on it. Not many injuries, a lot of traumatic stuff for the kids. But that was in a dead zone. Many of you don't know that our emergency services had no coverage there. And that was called in by a passerby on their T-Mobile who drove away from the accident to find coverage. It's 2025. Why have we not addressed it? How will we address it? I have a couple ideas, and it's a plan. I have a couple ideas I'm putting out here for conversation. It's on the website. If you look around, I'm not proposing building tall cell towers, no. But we often have Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile come in and they want to expand usage, or they want to drop another tower in somewhere. We have an affordable housing plan that has earmarked specific properties for that privilege and zoning of affordable housing. I propose we have a mobile coverage plan. We need to have conversation and deliberation, but we know the dead zones. Why hasn't the township put that together in the 15 or 20 years that we've known that this is built out? AT&T Labs is 10 miles away, the heart of telecom. One, let's get a mobile phone coverage plan together. Two, I'm not asking the township to fund it. It's a requirement when you come in here and want to build a new tower or expand an existing, guess what? Verizon, here's what we need done. Figure out a way to do it, and we'll fast-track something. I'm not saying give privilege. We're going to fast-track something, meaning the Land Use Board, thank you for all those that serve. It's a very hard and time-consuming effort, and they keep our culture and values here aligned, but let's create a fast-track process for that. That is what I'd propose we do. 2 minutes is up.
Thank you. Ms. Bonomi.
So for any of you who have tried to go buy a cell phone and get a provider, you know how competitive they are in terms of trying to get your business. They are equally, if not more competitive, if they have a township, if they have a group of thousands of residents, that we come to them and say, what can you give us? How can you help us? How can you help us maintain the look and feel and the safety that we have to our residents? And what can you do to help us in terms of group plans, in terms of better service? So my proposal is we absolutely start leveraging our power more than we ever have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fingerman.
So this is something that's very close to me. About a year ago, I was driving down Rockaway Road where I live, and there was a motor vehicle accident. And Robert had mentioned the bus accident. That's actually like a confluence of the safety issues that we have in this community, where a dead ash tree fell on the school bus in the right-of-way of the road, and then they couldn't get cell service out. I actually talked to the fire chief about that. Sounds like it was a very stressful situation. When I was driving down Rockaway Road about a year ago, I came across an accident. Somebody had blown the stop sign at the intersection. One driver was in a ditch. His airbags had deployed, couldn't get out of his car. The other driver, still on the road, but was kind of banged up. Checked in on them. Didn't seem like anything life-threatening. Not that I'm a doctor, but they looked all right, just a bit beat up and shocked, and drove into Oldwick, which was the nearest place I could get to, about 1.5 miles that I knew had service. Called the police department. They thanked me, and when I had driven back through after running my errand that morning, they were there and addressing the situation. That absolutely should not be happening in 2025. I mean, it shouldn't have happened 10 years ago, where this guy is on his phone, screaming into his phone, desperately trying to get attention. So something needs to be done. Now, the telco telco companies are incentivized. They will come in here and give us a plan and tell us where to put towers and all of that kind of thing. Now, I appreciate what was said about keeping Tewksbury, and that is absolutely something that is critical and very important to me. But the reality is, and what I said just a few minutes ago about change happening to you versus for you, our high wire electricity that crisscrosses this town, that does nothing for us, that's change happening to you, where you just have to kind of deal with that. Change happening for you is putting in a low profile, low visibility cell tower or series of cell towers that will get this community connected. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Maraca?
Hi. We all want cell coverage. That's a must, and we've been working on that for some time. You reach out to Verizon, and Verizon is very clear that we don't have the population in Tewksbury for them to invest in our town. They think you don't have enough people, so for them it's just a matter of economics. They're not willing to play the game, and they don't really care. And you could talk to them all you want, but it just doesn't matter. So that doesn't work. You can't just say to Verizon, you got to do this, you got to do this. It doesn't really work like that. So right now, and the Township Committee has worked with several other companies to figure out what else we could do in order to bring cell phone coverage to our community. We've spoken with companies that we do. There's underground, and we've worked with underground cable, some connectivity for that. So we've been working on it for years. It's not as simple as saying, okay, let's just do this. And so we've been trying very hard to work on that and get coverage for that. That's for sure. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Mr. Voice?
Yes, in fact, we had a study done, and they did come out, they did view our area, and there are depressions that, again, with line of sight being the sort for radio frequency and towers being in place so communicate with each other. It's more technical than I understand, but other than the fact that you have to build it for them to come, but they're not coming because they don't want to build it because they don't want to pay for it. So the thought was, well, if we built it, will you come? And the answer to that was no. In fact, we had a Verizon wireless, either VP or something like that, and the reason why you see all those little things going down in the dinner pot is because when he was coming home, he didn't want his cell service to drop. He actually had that put in. We approved the same thing for 512 East and West in Pottersville years ago. They're not here yet. What are they waiting for? I don't know. But sometimes, you talk to these people and they tell you that the technology is changing to the point where we will no longer have to use a tower. We can use something else. So we're kind of like in a transition mode. They're not letting us put up a tower, and they're not going to put anything on a tower, and they don't have the technology yet to bring it forward. But I agree with everyone here. We need to do something about the communications because it's been a long-standing problem for a very long time.
Thank you. Okay, our next question is, let's all assume that we are interested in retaining the rural character of this beautiful community, as well as having an accessible and user-friendly government. What specific plans do you propose to protect and expand the cultural, recreational, and social institutions we currently have? And we'll start with Ms. Bonomi.
Thank you. I think that the most important action that the committee needs to start doing, especially when it comes to culture, is start to include all of us, start to include the community. I would love to say more, but they need to start involving their community. I never really see a call out to there's a meeting that we want to discuss a topic. When it comes to culture, we have to understand who our residents are. We have to understand what our residents' needs are today. And we have to understand what's happening today, what changes are happening today that will impact us in the future. All of this goes back to not only having an updated master plan, having a dashboard where we're transparent and communicating to the culture and the community. We need to have dashboards almost on everything, on our master plan, on our finances, so that any resident at any time can go to the website, pull it up, and see what's the plan, where are we to plan, what are our actions being taken, and if we're not succeeding, what meetings can people come to be able to contribute and give their thoughts. So also in terms of culture, again, not only understanding our residents, but also understanding our youth and the next generation and being prepared to be ready for them and their needs. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. Mr. Fingerman?
Thank you. So that's a great question because we live in, unfortunately, very fractured times. And I think in this instance, what we need as a community is to come together and put differences aside and focus on what is similar and what connects us to our neighbors. I think you've heard a lot so far this evening. I'm sure you're going to continue hearing more, focused on our community, keeping Tewksbury, bringing, what makes this community together and celebrating that is of utmost importance. So people have a lot that they can point back to and say, this is my community, this is why I live here, this is why I love it. To that end, I've been serving for the past year and a half or so on the Library Capital Campaign Committee, where we raised around, it was pretty close to $1 million, with half of that coming from a state grant. Why was this so critical to me and important to me? Because our library is a pillar of our community. We need to look towards the pillars of our community, the things that unite us, the things that bring us together, where we can go in times of need, where we can go in times of just kind of relaxing, or maybe there's a trip that the library has planned into the city. Those are the things, uniting people, bringing us together, and keeping centered around our community is really, really important, especially in such fractured times. So I would really focus on things of that nature, bringing us together, and things that connect us to one another, like the library, like our schools, and like events like this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Maraca?
Hi. We are a community where we all work together and we all make this community great, right? There's the Women's Club of Tewksbury Township. There's a lot that they do for the community. They have, Easter functions. They have Christmas shows. We all participate with the Christmas tree and the Hanukkah menorah. That's something that the whole community does as a whole. We have the senior citizens, and we have picnics for the senior citizens every year. The township does, along with the Christmas party. Everybody's invited to come to these things. Come out and participate with these things. The police have the junior academy with the children every year. We all participate with that. That's something that's great. And the schools do a lot as well. There's the 8th grade play. I can continue to go on. The library, I know the township also gave some money to the library so that the library can meet their goals as well. We all do all kinds of things. The fire department has things. And so I think that we all have to take a step back and say, how could we do things ourselves to also contribute to the community? And I think that that's really important. So that's my input on this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Voice?
Yes, I believe the fabric of this community is its volunteer base, because there are so many different areas that you can participate in to give back to this community in any way, shape, or form. If you want to find it, it's here. So whether it's for youth or for the aged or for whatever purpose you think you need to benefit or would like to benefit others by your actions, it's here. And quite frankly, we'd like to support those things. Again, the library just received their grant. We were helpful in helping them meet their financial needs to make that happen. I support the library totally, and especially where they are. And that goes back to 2006 when Mr. Ricciardi came to our township committee meeting. And at that time, the library was not owned by the library. It was owned by another group. And by the end of that year, the library took the building over. But, there's a lot of time that's gone by, but it's a lot of good work and efforts by the public and those that have given back to this community. As for myself, I will work with anybody. I will cross lines. It doesn't matter. I'll meet with anybody and hear what they have to say to make sure that what's going to happen in Tewksbury remains as well as it does. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Voice. Mr. Becker?
I took the question as part of our fabric, but also as an engagement question. And what can the Township Committee do to facilitate and promote and push information out to all of us whom are very busy? When we moved here in 2004, how many of you have heard of Welcome Wagon? Because it showed up at our house. I loved it. Where is it? That's a small little thing. But let me share a few things that I think that if you speak about, Bill spoke about the fabric and the volunteers, immensely powerful. But the fabric of a community is also its deep bench. Who's the next in line? How do we keep the Historical Society building forward? Or the library? Small things. When I started on the Township Committee, small things. I want to give you a few examples where the volunteers in this town recognized a problem. They came up with a solution or some ideas that the town, there was some hesitancy from the township in general, let's say the Township Committee members. The Trails Association and the equestrians had came and asked about, can we put together a social media policy? So I want to give a shout out to Lauren Spiata-DeMare and Alyssa Schlotterback because they aggregated this amongst the community. Whether a horse broke or there were some more serious injuries with a horse, there was no means to use technology through a Facebook in this case, but social media in general. Within 90 days, with their help, we put together a formal policy that we put out, and it was passed by the Township Committee. Why did it take 90 days? Because we needed the governance controls. Who has intellectual property? Who's the administrator? You don't want politics on the town website, but you want to really push information out. We did that. Follow-up. Not soon thereafter, one of the falls, some coaches and parents from the athletic teams came. They asked for help. part of our fabric. Immensely busy with the sports in this town. It's wonderful. Fairmount North didn't have fencing, and at this time of year especially, they asked, we'd like to be practicing till about 8:30. There was some opposition and concern by local residents about lighting. They wanted to put up temporary lighting and fencing, one for the errant lacrosse and soccer balls, and lighting that was portable and promoted safety. We got it done. So I think that you invest in your community with those small wins, and that's how we increase the culture and the social fabric of this township.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So our next question, we'll start with Mr. Fingerman, and this question is, what is your philosophy on partnering with other entities, such as the county, other municipalities, or schools for sharing services?
It's an important question. Thank you. So shared services, I'm sure for everybody here, you're all engaged community members, but shared services are places where we can look to save on our overall budgets, right? Our tax burden is high, it is real. There are solutions we need to look to with our neighboring communities. As said previously, with us being a school choice district, we have students coming in some cases we may have students going out, and that's where budgets start to get a bit fluid. As a pledge of mine, and this is on my website, is to look into shared service opportunities for any places we can have cost savings. One example I've come across as part of my campaign for Township Committee is Califon, as a town, has historically been serviced by the state police force. What ends up happening more often than not, though, when a call does go out, it's the Tewksbury police that are answering those calls to Califon, right? Califon opted out of a shared service agreement, but of course, emergencies are what they are. We still need to send somebody needs to show up. So those are areas where I think that we can look. Beyond the schools and police service, I think that this goes really deep in places that we can look to continue saving money. One thing I do want to point out for seniors in particular is the Stay NJ program. Not a shared service necessarily, but that can help you with your tax burden. I think it's pretty significant, up to half of your property tax annually. So there are ways that we as a community can come together to look at those opportunities for things like shared services, but also just helping individual community members and making sure they know the resources they can tap into. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Maraca?
We currently share services on quite a bit of different levels here in Tewksbury. For example, as Andrew mentioned, we share services. We give our police department to Califon so that they could have some safety in their community. So that's one of the things that we do. We share the police with Califon. We just hired a new CFO, and he is going to work part-time, shared services with the community up north. I don't recall the name of the community. He's not going to be full-time, but it'll save the town quite a bit of money, tens of thousands of dollars, actually. We also share services now for our purchasing power for the Department of Public Works. We do a lot with that as well. So that's another thing that we do. That we're in cooperatives with those kind of things. I'm sure there are others that I just can't bring to the top of my head, but we try and focus on shared services quite a bit, as much as we can, and we focus on that every single year with our budget. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Mr. Voice?
Sure. We also do our zoning office, is shared between multiple towns as well. There's, we don't do the police, but the police are done by Long Valley. We do go as a mutual aid company into Califon, but that contract may be coming up soon. They may consider us to do their police work for them because the proximity is closer. Why we didn't receive it the first time, I'm not sure. The bid process is what it is, and they accepted to go with Long Valley instead of us at that time. The best bang for the buck, however, would be whatever we could do to help the school, whatever the school can do to help us, and we are in shared services with them for some communications and some radios and some other things. We're working with something right now, as I learned at the OEM meeting this morning, that using the bus lines or the bus's communication system, which seems to work well here in town, we may have access to that for our DPW and our police and our first aid and rescue squads, so that our communication level will be much better and much served better as far as that's concerned. So we're always looking for ways of making things better for all those concerned within town. It's just a way of making things work better in a way, not complicated, but sometimes thinking outside the box. But for whatever we do with the Board of Ed and whatever we do for ourselves, if we can share that together and save some money there, that's the best bang for the buck, because that's dollar for dollar, as well as other shared services. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Becker?
My colleagues mentioned there's a lot of shared services done in town, whether it's purchasing cooperatives or not. But there are some ideas that we probably should have a conversation with, because it's sometimes not just your tax dollars. I see there's a lot of garbage trucks that are around here, 4 or 5. The environmental, the road, Wednesdays and Fridays. Maybe in the concept, and I think Ms. Bonomi brought this up on the concept of Verizon, we could talk to them, but think of the concept of purchasing co-ops. And I'll get into this because I have a specific idea around the dead trees. Is if you look at a concept of buyer's power, purchasing co-op, can the township facilitate? You all come to us when there's a tax increase, whether it's a high school, K-8, or our taxes. How can we lead by influence? How can we lead by defining what the problem is and pushing a conversation? Maybe the garbage trucks, we can put out a concept of a bid process where we maybe have 2. I'm not a monopolist, but I want competition. So with the county closing the waste treatment plant up on Petticoat, that's made it painful for some of us. But maybe we can eliminate the roads. Maybe we can do better for the environment. Let's put that to the Environmental Commission to see if there's some ideas we can think creatively for shared services that lower your total cost of living here, not just your tax dollars. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bonomi?
So I'd like to say clearly, I am a huge advocate of sharing services, learning from every level, county, municipalities, schools, even other states. I feel that knowledge is power, and we need to learn from others. Why do we always have to be the ones to kind of go through the experience and learn from our mistakes? We can learn from others if we start communicating more, start getting more involved in shared meetings with other counties, with other states, et cetera. Obviously, for shared services, there's the reduced tax burden, we can start leveraging the county more. These are all positive things, right? Like, we could start pushing up to the county. I know the county just recently released a new bond where anyone within the county can start leveraging that. Are we leveraging that? And if we are, do we know that we are? I don't know if we are, because it's not on our website and it hasn't been communicated. So again, it's about the positives of the obvious reduced tax burdens, helping us save money, helping us use that money for other things in the future. But the biggest thing for me also is schools. We could start leveraging our schools better. A great example is North Hunterton Voorhees, the school that we're in that we all love. They have academies and they have trade schools through Hunterton County Polytech. Those academies every year have what's called capstone projects that they have to complete. We could start leveraging those computer students to update our website for free. It could be their capstone project. We need to start thinking creatively to leverage others. Thank you.
Thank you. So this next question, Ms. Maraca will start off, and the question is, at this time, it appears that only township meetings are held over remote access, and when it helps fit into the township committee schedule. Since meetings can be held remotely, would you favor allowing all meetings of the township committee and the land use board be over video in the same manner as the boards of education currently do?
So thank you for that question. I think there's some issues with, if I remember correctly, I think there's some issues with people speaking and getting involved with the video. I don't recall the whole thing honestly. But I know that there's some restrictions and there's some restraints, and I think that that's why the township hasn't done that and continues not to do that. I think there were some restrictions with that. I would love it if we could, because I think it's great for everybody to be there and see it on the screen, but it doesn't really work for our needs. I do, though, encourage everybody to come to township committee meetings and planning board meetings and see what we're talking about and see what's going on and participate by asking questions and participate by making comments about what we're discussing, because most times there's nobody in the audience except those people being affected, say for the planning board. And I think it's really important that everybody get involved and come and see what's going on in those meetings. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Boyce?
Yes, well, we did research this out, and unfortunately, it's more complicated than it sounds. It sounds very easy. You just make this happen. You just have a video. However, if for whatever reason the system goes down, the meeting has to stop. If for some reason there's some sort of glitch in the whole environment of what that is, the meeting has to stop. So it becomes an issue of making sure that you have good quality equipment, but making sure that your internet's perfect, and we know that that's not great either here, right? So our Wi-Fi is a little tough, our internet's a little tough. You know, it's hard to keep things going that way. If it was video only, that's a lot easier to do, because then it's just you observing what's going on. There's no dialogue going back and forth, but that kind of defeats the purpose for you watching it, right? Because I'd like to have you there. And open dialogue is the best thing to do. In fact, I encourage it all the time, because this is how we learn. This is how we understand your viewpoints and that, so that we can incorporate that into what we're doing. And just like Ms. Maranka said, we appreciate your help. If you can come to more meetings and join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boyce. Mr. Becker?
Thank you. This goes back to engagement and asking for you to join us, but how you need to be engaged. When I was getting my petition signed in June, I had, God bless them, I had 120 people that signed that petition. But I walked up on Bridge Hollow off of Frog Hollow, and I saw change in this town. But I also saw a dozen children have moved in there since COVID, and those parents are busy. They don't have time. The kids are playing on the street. They got basketball hoops set up and everything. So why are we not doing this? I have kind of an attitude, why not? We did Zoom in COVID. Now, yes, there are technical glitches, but it's a priority. If you want to do it, you can solve it. You're doing a great job with the camera, and you set this up tonight, so we can obviously accomplish it. Yes, Zoom. Yes, recording minutes. We have a gap, what you see, because you don't know without going through the minutes. Let me give you an example. You need to go to our website, and you need to know the meeting date on our land use board, and you need 6 clicks. That is 1990 best practice. You need 3 clicks or less. To find out that on Farmersville Road, there's a storage barn being proposed by Fraser Industrial in Long Valley, period. What? Now, I talked to my neighbors, they had no clue about it, but you needed to find the date and find the agenda to know about the meeting unless you live within 200 feet. Wait a minute. We're talking about social fabric. We're talking about engagement. Why is that not out on the website? Nixle has a purpose. So does Facebook, but so does an email server. And as a shared service, every school board candidate, I've asked for a few years to our superintendent, I don't have children in the schools. I only get asked an email or get sent an email when they want a bond issue. Why am I not sent informational things every month? I want to know what's going on in my schools. That's my investment for my future. It's part of engagement. We can share services, we can overcome the technology needs, and we can ask you on your time to come into Zoom and YouTube to watch it when you're ready.
Thank you. Ms. Benami?
Thank you. Coming from the North Huntington Voorhees School Board, where since COVID, everything was recorded live. It was live streamed. And not only that, you can access those on YouTube. You can go back and see any recording that you want at any time. So I am a firm believer in transparency. I am a firm believer in engagement. and getting everyone involved. I agree with Mr. Becker that there are many families, we have seniors, that there's many reasons why people can't come out the one night a month that there's a meeting. So I absolutely agree that it should be live telecasted. If there's any technical issues, I don't think anyone at home will mind the pause button coming back soon. You know, we're all understanding to it, and then we have to work hard to make sure that we fix that. So yes, I agree that it should happen. I also agree we should go one step further and keep them logged on our website so people can go back and reference. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fingerman.
So I'll keep it short and direct. Yes, of course. Anything and everything to encourage participation and engagement from the community is critical. It might be hard, there might be technicalities, all of that is true. In another capacity of mine, I serve on the board of trustees of my synagogue, and we live stream everything and have since COVID. And we do have kind of, you know, our dedicated Zoomers who are there every week. It's a pain. It's a pain. We've had to install microphones. We, you know, upgrade our cameras. We have somebody in the back of the room on the computer. I agree there are challenges, but anything and everything we can do to encourage participation and clear communication and transparency from our local government, we should absolutely be exploring. Not everything will work, but we will try. Thank you.
Thank you. This will be our fifth question, and Mr. Voice will start, and just so that everyone knows, we're approximately halfway through our questions. So, Mr. Voice, what significant public input, with significant public input, the master plan was put together in 2003 and 2004. That is a long time ago, and much has changed around us. What do you think should be done about the new master plan?
Well, the new master plan always has a revision, and not that it has significant change, but there's always periodic review of the master plan. And that periodic review has minor provisions to it, and then some other kind of provisions to it, and they look at it in sections. We haven't had a major plan review, and I guess we're due for that. So we should make sure that that comes to be, and we'll look at the master plan again, but that's how the town is driven, right? So the goals and objectives of the town are directed by the master plan, and 20 years ago, they came up with those kind of provisions, and this is what you see today, is based upon that document. Yes, it needs to be tweaked, yes, it needs to be looked at, but for something that's been very stable for us, it's worked well.
Thank you. Mr. Becker.
The master plan is important, and it also drives our development regulations. So the master plan needs to be updated. And I want to give you some things that impact many, many people in this town. You probably, maybe some of you have well. How many people in this town have to come before the zoning board, land use board, to get a generator? The setbacks cost you $5 to $10 grand to do it. It's a little bit expedited. The township tried to address some things, but you still have to do it, right? So we need to update the master plan, but I also want to put out what I think we should look at and have the conversation, because it ties back into shared services, ties back into the total cost of living here, and it ties back into the township leading with concordant bodies, the school boards. Do we need to upgrade the potable water supply at our school, TES? Should we connect to the Hackettstown utilities? That's right at the Fairmont Light. I don't know that answer, but these are the long-range master plan, long-range infrastructure plans I want a conversation about that are going to impact the control we have and the taxes we pay. So whether it's going to be developing the master plan, first we need to understand, yes, we need to update it. Two, let's get the stakeholders involved. Not just the cultural and social, but every other thing on that tax bill is like, let's talk about what are your infrastructure, what are your building needs, and what is the impact. I'd like to have a conversation about that. So yes, we need to update that.
Thank you. Ms. Benami?
Thank you. So we've heard a lot of, all of us have said, either tonight or in our campaign literature, that we want to keep Tewksbury, Tewksbury. The only way that will happen is if we have an updated master plan, that we are quarterly and semi-annually and annually updating it, reviewing it, and that we are being transparent with all of you on where we are with our progress and any changes that need to be made. Since I only have 2 minutes, these are not in any order, but I did make some notes of what I would do. First and foremost, it needs to be updated in terms of the county and state codes requirements. It needs to be updated on the website, because none of us can see anything for the past 20 years. So I believe that there's been some updates, but none of us know what those are. We need to include current conditions now. All of us, we feel it. We're going through a lot of changes in the world right now on every level. We need to be able to look at that, because what happened 20 years ago, what happened 5 years ago, is not what's happening now. So we need to update that accordingly. I think we also need to, believe it or not, add more illustrations, like, for example, village design standards. You can read 3 pages and still not know what they're talking about, and that's not Tewksbury, that's across the board. So we need some illustrations. We need to include a strategic analysis. So we can't only just build a plan, we need to have a strategic analysis. We need to include what's our strengths, our weaknesses, our opportunities, what's our threats. Based on that, go to a plan and then build that out and build it into a scorecard that we can start leveraging and tracking. Was that time? Sorry.
Just about.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Fingerman?
So in terms of the master plan, and absolutely respect the fact that it's a massive undertaking, it takes the community input as said through the question. What needs to be done? There are 2 things that really pulled me into running for Township Committee. One is the patchwork of solutions that's been put into place for lack of having an updated master plan specific to affordable housing. For example, there's an affordable housing unit in Christie Hoffman Farm Park that the town identified, hey, this is one that we could tick off by making this an affordable housing unit. So what ended up happening, anybody who's a parent of young kids in the community knows, perhaps not everyone does, but what happened is we had a convicted child sex offender move into that unit, and the knock-on effects of that is we had to have kind of anything related to kids, sports practices, movies in the park, all of that had to be relocated. Now, that gentleman is no longer there, and that's great. But why is he no longer there? Because he reoffended, right? These are risks we cannot allow in our community. So number one, major update to the affordable housing plan, or anything that has impacts of this nature. Even a simple reclassification of Christie Hoffman Farm Park to drop the farm and just call it a park. If it needs a playground, we can find a way to put up the money and call it a park. That's one. The second is just the eyesore that is of our community that is currently being extorted upon us is the Sawmill School. Something needs to be done about the Sawmill School.
Thank you. Ms. Maraca?
Thank you. So I agree the master plan needs to be updated, and we do update it periodically. I think there's a set amount of time that that we review it every so many years. With that being said, things have to be addressed, and we are addressing those things. And it does talk about the rural character. Is this on? It does talk about the rural character in our master plan. It does talk about many other things in the master plan, and we do need to review it. I'll agree with that. So thank you for that. I will say, however, there are some things that are being brought up that we have no control over. For example, Sawmill School has just been brought up. We don't own Sawmill School, and so we can't. And they're meeting all their obligations, so there's not much you can do as a private citizen to have that addressed. But thank you very much for that. Thank you so much, everybody.
Okay, we're back around to Mr. Becker. This is question number 6. With the rising cost of health insurance, municipalities are searching for ways to control costs, including limited health insurance to full-time employees. Is Tewksbury Township currently enrolled in the state health benefits plan? And what is your position on giving health insurance to part-time employees, including elected officials?
The first question is, Tewksbury in the state benefits plan? Yes, we are, and it costs our township quite a bit of money. If you look at our budget, it's going up 6, 8, 10, 12% a year. It's been exorbitant. Yes, we're in the plan. I don't think we have options to move out of it, but we are in the plan. That is the state medical plan that pretty much a lot of state, county, and municipal employees have. Yes, I am, and in my first service to you in 2018, 2019, I actually was the only advocate to try to ask the township to reconsider, and specifically two members at that time, both still serving, to consider what Governor Christie did in 2010, which is, for those of you that don't know, part-time employees across the state on a town and municipal level did not get state benefits for medical after 2010 unless they were continuously reelected. So that costs us about $35,000 to $38,000 per person on a township committee. We make about $4,700. We're here because we love our town. We're not doing it for the wage, but some of us are doing it for the medical plan. I objected to it then. It's a moral dilemma that they have a right to. But if we're struggling with our taxes and especially if you qualify for Medicare, you should take Medicare and save the township the money.
Thank you. Ms. Benami?
So I'm going to piggyback off of you answering yes, that we're in the state plan, but I guess we can all just say yes, we're in the state plan.
Save time.
Save time. So in terms of elected officials, I agree with Mr. Becker as well. I have my own health insurance. I, if elected, will not be asking my fellow taxpayers to be paying for my health insurance. I believe strongly that this is a volunteer position. I'm clear on the expectations. I'm clear of what I get from this, and I do not expect to be paid in any way, shape, or form, so I will not be asking for health coverage. In terms of our employees, I think that there's a lot available within the state that we need to consider, and not only consider, but be transparent with all of you to let you know that we have looked into these programs. There's E&O coverage, there's things called like SHBP, tier migration, there's many incentives and many things that we can get funding, so it's just a matter of what are we legally allowed to and eligible for? And this goes back to those shared services. When I was in the high school, our business administrator is brilliant, and she looked and talked to other schools and formed a group so that a health insurance coverage would be cheaper if we all went in on this. So again, we just have to be creative. We have to stop thinking, well, it's never been allowed, we tried, we keep being told no. What can we do? Who can we work with? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fingerman?
Thank you. So I want to answer this question in a couple of different ways, but don't want to, rehash or talk about anyone in particular. I think that I agree with what's been said thus far. I also lament the fact that, and this is personal perspective, that we live in a country that has not guaranteed healthcare as a human right for everybody, every citizen. There's nothing we can do about that, of course, on the township committee other than our own personal decisions. And I think every single decision for anybody on the township committee or residents in general should be thought of in terms of how we're best supporting the community. In this case, what we're talking about is healthcare funded by, paid for by, the taxpayers. So it's a bit tough. I think everybody deserves healthcare, but I also don't think it's really fair to say one off here, one off there, you get it, and so doesn't. The other way I want to answer this, similar to Deb, is about incentives for being involved in township committee and serving on township committee. For me, what that's about is helping this community in the best way I know how and being as open as I possibly can to a diversity of perspectives on what makes this town great, and going after that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Maranga?
Yes, okay, so we offer health insurance to our full-time employees, and that's a benefit of working here. There are several people on the board that are on the township committee that do receive health insurance. They're grandfathered, and the township committee gives them those health insurance benefits. Let me just say, as a township committee member, my first my first term, the first 3 years, I did not take the $80 a week that they gave you as payment. I didn't even know we were receiving payment. I declined that money, and I decided to keep it within the township so that they would have money for parties for the employees, because I feel like they really work very hard, and I thought it would be a nice opportunity for them to be together and have some fun time together as well. So I don't take the money, and it's not for me to judge other people. We don't know everybody's financial situation, and I don't want to judge those people. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Voice.
All right, it is the state health benefits, and I'm one of the recipients. Now, having said that this town has made a good investment in me, and I look at it that way, that you've invested in me, and it's my return of how I've behaved and how I've worked and how I've strived to work in the town and to make things better for the public here. That is my return of investment that you've made into me. So, yes, I do receive those benefits. Thank you.
Okay, we're starting off with question 7, and I think by now you're getting the drill. So, Ms. Bonami, this is for you to start off. There has recently been renewed discussion about withdrawing the Tewksbury Township Public Library from the Hunterdon County Library System. So many of these questions, I take a moment, I remember them back from 25 years ago. Our local library has continued to evolve into a much-needed community center. Additionally, the county library system allows us to access such services as Makerspace, which is targeted towards our teens, the Library of Things, which allows patrons to borrow everything from a hand truck to a blood pressure monitor, to arts and crafts, to seed and propagation library, museum passes, and most importantly, the extensive digital library known as Libby. What is your position on withdrawing from the county system, and are you currently a patron of the library?
Thank you. I am a current patron of the library. I am a current financial supporter of the library, as well as my 2 daughters. Not only are they patrons, but one of my daughters babysat a young boy in the community and brought him Monday through Friday to the library this entire summer. And I think got more out of the library through him than she did herself. So I have to thank the library for that. I heard about this, unfortunately, reading the Hunterdon Review. My understanding is this kind of was put in the agenda at a late time, which is very disappointing in terms of lack of transparency, again, from our township committee. I feel strongly that we need a library in this community. If I were to vote today based on the knowledge I have today, I would vote to keep it in. It would be rare for me not to vote that in, and I only say that even at all because I unfortunately don't know all the facts, because the few different people that I've spoken to in positions that know, I've heard some conflicting things. So bottom line is, Tewksbury needs a library. Tewksbury's library should stay where it is. It's not only for reading and for books and enrichment. I can't tell you how many students being on the school board, even up to the high school, who weren't getting what they needed from their teachers, got it from the library. So we need to keep this library for education, for community, and to help us grow. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fingerman.
Thank you. So a few elements within the question. Let's get the easy stuff out of the way. So I'm a current patron, hopefully a patron in good standing. My kids make that difficult, by the way. Also, of course, have financially supported the library, have supported the library through volunteer capacity, as I mentioned, serving on the capital campaign committee, really looking at that as a once-in-a-generation effort that we really had to rally around as a community, as a town, to save it. So suffice it to say, I think that the library is an absolute necessity and cornerstone of our community. The specific question on the county system versus the local system, it's a tough one. I've heard arguments on both sides, and it's one that I have not made up my mind, if I'm being completely honest. There seems to be benefit to being in the system. As we talked about shared services, it goes both ways. In some cases, sometimes too much goes out in terms of what we're participating in, and we don't get much in return. So some folks have that perspective. Other folks think it's really critical because of the resources that we get. So that's something that I'll be perfectly honest, is something I need to spend more time exploring and hearing both sides of the argument. But in short, I'm absolutely supportive of our local library and think it's a critical cornerstone of this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Maraca?
Thank you. So the answer to the question is yes. I support the library as a staple of our community. I've personally offered the library to do wine tastings, and all the proceeds would go to the library. I've offered that several times, and I thought that was a good idea. I would do that with all of my vendors and have a large wine tasting, and they can invite whoever they want, and like I said, all the proceeds would go to that. The Tewksbury Township Committee recently, the subcommittee met with the library. And the Township Committee's Library Subcommittee recently met, like I said, and the outcome of the meeting is that there are many unanswered questions and more research is required. The town and the library, I'm sure, will do what's best for the library and the community. With that being, and I believe that, because everybody has the best interests of the library and the community at hand here. Remember, we give $650,000 a year in our taxes for the library to the county. Are we getting $650,000 worth of benefits? We could also do Libby separately. So like I said, we're exploring various questions and more research is being done. And I'm sure like I said, I'm sure the Township Committee and the library will come to the proper decision for what we need as a community. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Mr. Voice?
Well, this decision is in the township committees. Basically, right now, it's an investigation to see whether or not having a library stand by itself or stay within the county system is the right way to go. Right now, it's just looked at financially. Ultimately, it's the public who will decide if we're to pull out of the library system. This question was asked maybe in 2004, 2005, and it was voted down at that time. But periodically, you have to check and see where your resources are going, where your money is going, and ask the question, can we have a better return on our dollar from the library, from the county, back into our own system? I think that has to be vetted out and make sure that that comes back to us.
Thank you. Mr. Becker?
Mr. Voice is right. There was a referendum, and it would have to come to that. But where I stand, I think that if we put a plan together, we understand what our options are, the financials he just referred to. But I like the library, but I also want to think, how does this relate to our master plan? If we bring it in-house and opt out, is that facility good enough? They've got a wonderful job on part one of their capital campaign. But how do we expand those hours? We're going to need more hours probably. So let's put together a thorough operating budget if we did it as a standalone. Second question, is that facility big enough? I don't know that answer. That needs to be a conversation, because if you have more demand, you tend to have more influx of the resources you need, whether it's computers or network or access for students going there. So maybe that has to come into our master plan. Maybe there's something that can be built with with the township here. I don't know. That's a multi-year conversation. I think with $650,000 going out the door, it's time to look at it, to maybe bring it back in-house. And the second question, yes, I do patronize it. I have gone to some of the events at night, but during the day, it's busy during the day. There's not much at night, but I do enjoy the county, and I do leverage Libby a lot.
Thank you. Question 8. Our understanding is that Tewksbury Township relies on a third-party agency to administer occupancy of our affordable housing units. Is there a way to give priority to people who work in the township, such as teachers, police, firefighters, or to young people who have grown up in Tewksbury, so they continue to make a contribution to our community? And would you support such a program? And we'll start with Mr. Fingerman, I believe. Yes.
Goody. No, this is an interesting one, and one I've honestly never pondered. I mean, it sounds on its face potentially problematic, but I love the idea of prioritizing and reserving our affordable housing units for, priority individual groups. It does sound very thorny legally if I'm just presented, so I would, be certainly open to exploring anything of that nature, certainly of our first responders. Love the idea of, keeping folks in the community who may have graduated and moved out of their parents' house and, prioritizing units of that. But again, sounds like a pretty challenging sort of approach to prioritize certain groups beyond the requirements needed to be met for qualifying for affordable housing. That being said, I think that the thing that I really grapple with is this third-party administrator, and that gets back to the shared services conversation and prioritization of tax dollars and the tax burden from the community being spent. So really focusing on how much money is going out the door and what is the benefit that we're getting from that. Is it just keeping us in compliance, and therefore, there's maybe more that could be done. But while I love the spirit of the idea, sounds like a legal challenge or potential nightmare, but one that I would certainly be open to looking into. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Morocco?
Thank you. I grapple with this all the time because I think it's really important that we support the people in our community as much as possible. And I think there are many people in this town who in the future will not continue to be able to live in this beautiful community. And with that being said, I think by having a third party administer this, it's fair to everybody, and we're not playing favorites. And I don't know if it's permitted legally to have favorites or not. So I think by having a third party administer this, it would be great. With that also being said, my oldest daughter, applied for this housing, and she was given this housing, and it worked out beautifully. So for me, I have it on both sides. So I think it's great to have people in our town participate, but I think we need to open it up to all kinds of people in the community, to all kinds of people everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Royce?
Yes. I'd like nothing more than to have that happen, but basically the state won't allow it. And the state basically controls, we have to provide it, but the state controls it. The only thing we get to see is the person's financial performa, and that's it, until we sign off on a dotted line that they can live there. And only then can we see who they are. And by that point, if we reject who it is based upon what their background is, we open ourselves up to a civil liability case. So unfortunately, we had more controls in the past. The governor removed a lot of it. And again, you have to provide it, but we have no say in how it's managed. We have no say in how it's controlled. And this is what happened last year, and we fought ourselves out of that one. So unfortunately, that's what we have to do.
Thank you. Mr. Becker?
What Mr. Voice said is correct, but that's only in one scenario. Because the township owns that apartment, you have to blindly commit, basically. What Ms. Morocco admitted to is with the same leasing agent, they're known as CGP&H, she was able to get her adult daughter an apartment above PPAC Bank. So it can somehow have preference. Maybe, and I'm believing it to be, if the township did not own that Christie Hoffman building, nor that apartment, and it was a private investor, individual, maybe they would have control like PPAC Bank does. So I think we should look at maybe the township not own that building, and maybe not even the Fisher House, will stand with the Oldwick Fire, with the 20 or 30 units that are necessary to be built for the 2010 round 3 obligations for affordable housing behind the Oldwick Firehouse that should have been done by 2025. Maybe we can expand those to cover those 3 or 4. And it's not a township problem to have to blindly accept, and we can somehow deed restrict it to preference points for teachers and firemen. We need volunteer firemen in this town. I'd like to think out of the box that way, because it's not working now, and we still face the risk, because that apartment at Christie Hoffman is vacant, and we could have another one come back in. Maybe we need to look alternatives.
Thank you. Ms. Benani?
Thank you. So I think every member of the Tewksbury Township Committee and employees of the township needs to be above reproach. And I feel that this question, although part of the question in terms of looking to support our local teachers, I love the idea. I think we should look at that separate, especially from a legal standpoint, from the affordable housing. And that's something we can put in, we can actually add to our strategic and master plan of how do we keep the next generation, and how do we keep the people that are supporting us by either employees or teachers, et cetera, how do we keep them coming to this area? I think that in terms of a third-party leasing, I would definitely want to talk more to our township attorney, and not only just the attorney, but I would also want to talk to our state and county representatives and find out more. Again, it all comes down to being above reproach, making sure there's no conflicts of interest, and making sure that we're adhering to the legal standards and being creative on how we can work within that legally. Thank you.
Thank you. Question number 9, and we'll start with Ms. Maraca. I am pronouncing your name correctly? Okay, all right. I apologize if I was mashing it up.
You're perfect.
That's what my wife says.
Well, she's right.
Thank you. This question, number 9. The Township Committee has been investigating the possibility of withdrawing from the North Hunterdon Voorhees Regional High School District. Our contribution is high in part because of high cost of our taxable property, and in part because a number of students we send to Voorhees. As a result, the current per pupil cost for Tewksbury students comes out to be $56,000 a year. The state of New Jersey's Constitution requires that there be a thorough and efficient system of free public schools for all children ages 5 to 18. It is unclear how the township could meet that requirement, since there are no nearby public high schools in other districts. What do you believe the township should do about this issue?
Okay, first let me just say this, because I think my statement about my daughter having lived in an apartment here in town was at least 10 years before I became a township committee person or on the school board or anything to do with the town. So everybody should know that. And I didn't help participate for her to get a unit. So I want that to be clear. I want everybody to know I'm beyond reproach with that. I think you have to have integrity and you have to have accountability, and that's not what happened with us. Okay. Now, as far as the Voorhees issue with the school board, I don't think we even discussed pulling out of the Voorhees regional school system. I would never agree to pull out of the Voorhees North Hunterdon regional school system ever. Period. I would not support that. I would agree, and I voted to agree to this, to meet with Trenton to see if we could negotiate a lower cost for our taxpayers. I understand that it's a long shot, but I believe that we have to try, and that was my approach to the Voorhees North Hunterdon issue with the $55,000 or so that we're paying for the students to go to the high school here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Royce?
All right. Well, part of the Township Committee's responsibility is fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers themselves. And when there's something so far out of skew as to what we pay for our students to go to Voorhees High School or North Hunterdon Voorhees, it begs the question, why? Right? And the simple answer is this. Well, there's 12 communities that are part of the North Hunterdon Voorhees community, and basically based upon value within your community, that creates a dollar set. You add up the whole 12, that creates a whole, and that creates a portion of, or percentage to us as a whole to the others. And that number is then multiplied against the number, and that's what you end up owing, right? So at one point, back in the 40s or 50s, all these communities must have been like and similar in their base and things like that, because it was probably equally shared across the board. Presently, Tewksbury, of course, is a J district, J being the highest form of school government. A is the lowest, and J is the highest, and there's only 16 in the state. So yes, because of that, and because of our value added to our community, that's why we pay as much as we do. But it has to beg the question, why? Right? Now, there are other ways of funding this besides just pure land value. You know, there's student population you can send, and there's a variation of what you can do that could be looked at and maybe equalize across the board a little bit better. But it requires an investigation, and that's the process we're going through.
Thank you. Mr. Becker?
I served you on the North Hunterdon Board from 2011 to 2017, and we looked at the issue of carving Voorhees out, not just Tewksbury. I liked the idea, but it was a lot of due diligence and numbers. The drivers of this are the following. If you go back 20 years in Tewksbury, we have 2 schools built for almost 900 children. We're at about 480 now. Math works. If you take 54,000 and double your student population from about 178, go to Voorhees now. If you go to 360, which is 4 classes, you'll cut your cost down to 27,000. So part of it is a demographic trend in this town where we don't have a lot of starter houses and we don't have young families coming in. You're at 55% of school capacity here. So 55,000 is a lot to be sending, and I don't think, and why it failed when we talked about can we carve Voorhees and Lebanon and 2 other areas out, is you would not get the support from those that we subsidize, the Clintons and the other towns, because we subsidize. It's unfortunately the way we are. The only probable and likely outcome is the dialogue where I think Mr. Voice was going is there a way to do a fixed formula for sending on almost like a sending or receiving district where each child is costs X no matter what, and it's not subject to the annual whims of a school board budget.
Thank you. Ms. Manami?
So the formula and the calculation of what each county and each sending district pays the high school is based on a formula that was built and put into place on the first day that the North Huntington Voorhees Regional High School District came into effect. It was put into place by the county, by Hunterdon County, by our Hunterdon County Department of Education. So this has been in effect since the 1950s. It is based on part of it is based on our property values, and Tewksbury has the highest property values of the sending districts for Voorhees, hence why we pay more than our other sending districts to Voorhees. This is important to understand because our property values, it's a double-edged sword. We want them to be high so that when we sell, we either make money or we don't lose for what we paid. And what keeps our property values high is having strong schools, as well as what keeps people coming into the community as people try to move out is we're attracting more families for our schools. So it's important that we keep our schools. I would not vote to allow us to leave the North Huntington Voorhees district. I think there's other creative ways, like I've been saying all night. We need a strategic plan, but we have to be creative. We have to stop thinking of this the same way we always have been. A great example is, are we going to the county? Are we asking the county to start supplementing? Are we sitting down with all the 12 sending districts of the high school with the Hunterdon County Board of Ed and saying, let's relook at this. Life has changed. What can we do? Where can we get supplements? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fingerman?
Thank you. So a lot of, I think, great ideas have been shared. I think it highlights a couple of things. One, the challenge of being the most well-heeled portion of our district in its 12 parts, I think that that is a real challenge, and it is hard to see that amount of money going out per student. It's also hard to see, I think, the demographic changes that are causing that high cost per student. Moreover, to not rehash things that have been said, I think what this lays bare is the issue of communication and transparency. Because clearly there's been a question submitted on this. This is something that a few of us have brought up over the course of this evening. The community clearly cares about this and has been largely an unknown to most of us who came across this on our own. I happened upon this as an agenda item at a township committee meeting, and that was where I thought it was revealed that the town was trying to pull us out, actively trying to pull us out of the district without an answer. Now, I am grateful to Ms. Marenka and Mr. Voice for highlighting, that decision-making process. But I think what this lays bare is the township committee needs to formalize and modernize their communication plan to make sure that residents are understanding of what these decisions are made. Because frankly, parents of school-age children are stressed out about this news. That being said, we should, and the Township Committee should be always looking at ways that we can get the most for our dollars. So, yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Question 10, and Mr. Voice will start for us. Are you familiar with the township's emergency management plan? How is the township prepared for a major natural disaster? And what additional steps do you think are necessary to improve our preparedness?
Well, as a matter of fact, I was at an OEM meeting this morning, and we discussed several things like that. Yes, there are action plans in place. No, I can't discuss them. And the reason why I can't discuss some of the action plans is that some of them are safety-based, like shooters in schools and things like that, that has to be kept within the department itself. They are exercised. They are occasionally done either through a tabletop model or they're done through active work within the school. I know our police have had opportunities to go into both schools and exercise their plans in both locations and come up later on and meet up and discuss afterwards what could have been done better. Every emergency that we have, or everything that does go wrong, as far as even with the school bus that was hit by the tree, that was reviewed later on. How could we do better? How could we get that communication up? Is there a way of using Starlink to make that work? Is there some other way of being able to get that communication through? When it comes to emergency preparedness, you always plan for the worst and hope for the best, right? So you always have to think of contingencies and other things and factors. In fact, we just had the Harvest Festival, and during the Harvest Festival, there were 3 children that went missing for a short period of time. 2 were found immediately, and 1 was about 10 minutes. But there was a plan in place, and that plan worked well because the child was returned to their children or to their parents within 10 minutes. So these things are there and available, and is an active form of this township.
Thank you. Mr. Becker?
I think there are pieces on the OEM plan that I am aware of too. For instance, the rescue squad is an overnight facility, but it's not very large. I think that goes back to the master plan conversation. What facilities are here? Is this school used may this school be used in some capacity at certain events that happen? I think on a communication regarding the lack of communications, you need an immediate plan as well as a long-range plan. Whether it's Starlink, maybe not a bad idea, but it goes back to, do we do those mini pole-mounted towers? Do we put a plan in place? It's not one solution path. It's having contingency, which Mr. Voice referred to. It's scale, it's LCS 1 and 2 and 3, where you know the level of incident response. The point is your infrastructure there? We need a plan in place, and I think we can open that conversation up. We do need to.
Thank you. Ms. Bonami?
So I agree that we obviously need a plan. I've been saying that all night. We need a strategic plan. It needs to be well thought out. It needs to be much more clear and divided out into categories than it is right now. Although we can't tell and list out exactly what some of the plans are, we could actually tell the community that there is a plan. And that when those plans are being practiced or rehearsed, that absolutely can be communicated to the community so that we all start to feel better and we know, oh, wow, my community can protect me in these scenarios. And then obviously, if you have questions, you can go forward to the appropriate people in the township. I think that there does need to not only be a long-range plan, as Mr. Becker said, but then to bring it back like we would be for the strategic plan in terms of what do we need to do 3 years out, 5 years out, 10 years out, and then when are we updating this? When are we coming back and assessing and making sure that, are we still on track? Has anything changed? For example, storm preparedness. Are there any issues with water that weren't there 3 years ago that we now have to add to it? So, yes, I do think that we need one, and we need to expand and plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fingerman?
I agree with much of what's been said and do recognize that certain safety protocol needs to be kept under wraps for very specific reasons, of course. As a parent of kids in the school system, you'll get an email, the kids practiced a drill today, everybody did well, you kind of get these emails. So you know what it is as a parent, but, more broadly for the community, I think that the realities of our changing environment are such that we need to continuously actively revisit our emergency preparedness plans. So you'll hear from residents, I live near Mountainville, so I'll use that as an example, where they're hearing that they now all of a sudden live in a flood zone and they're hearing from their insurance companies. And I don't think that should be the world that we live in. Of course, I lament the fact that we have new flood zones and that exists, but the reality should be that the town can assist and communicate with residents as to, what the emergency plans are, if they can communicate those, and if they can't, to Mr. Becker's point, highlight that there are, and Deb's point, that there are plans in place and actions being taken, and these are the protocol. I think one example goes back to the school bus that was struck by a tree. I was fortunate enough to ride in the Old Wick fire truck in the 4th of July parade this year with my son and his buddy and his dad. And we talked to the fire chief about that event, and what he shared with us is how stressful and how intense that moment was with the transportation director for the schools, the school administrators, the parents, and all of that. And he had to come to police, and he had to come in and say, we are taking over, the emergency service is taking over, this is what we're doing, and the kids, were brought out of an abundance of caution to the hospital. Now, in that instance, I'm glad for that infrastructure being in place and those individuals being there ready to respond. But residents don't readily know about that. So being able to say, this is the protocol, this is what we do, that can allow residents to feel more prepared. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Maraca?
We do have OEM plans, and obviously safety is a concern. I know the chief of police is our OEM director, and he's constantly going to seminars and classes to get updated. Also, I've lived in town for a long time. The infrastructure that we're worried about are our roads, our bridges, our rivers, and people's personal property. We're actively working with the DPW. I'm on the DPW committee on how to make our community more resilient, right? I'm working with Shannon to identify funding to shore up physical infrastructure, and we understand that the impact that it has on our families for the roads, and there's no doctors that way, getting people to work. We're all working on this together as a township committee. And also, I think it's important, everybody's talking about the about the master plan. And, I was thinking about it while we're up here, so everybody should know I'm a better listener than a speaker with this. I have so much difficulty up here. I know I'm blowing it tonight, but something else I was thinking about. The master plan is a guidance document. It's intended to guide our vision of how Tewksbury grows and is preserved. Let's remember that. So, I think that that's also very important. And so thank you very much.
Okay, that was our 10 questions. Very good. So we're going to do closing statements, and I understand Ms. Maraca is going to lead us off with closing statements.
Perfect. So first, I want to say thank you to everybody for coming tonight. It's been a real pleasure being here, except For me, it's been a little painful. Like I said, I am not good at this. Come to me, talk to me. I love to listen to what you have to say. And I take everybody's advice very, very seriously. With that being said, let's see. I love this town, and I believe in it. Everybody can see I'm very transparent and honest. My core values are accountability, integrity, and loyalty. I am deeply committed to Tewksbury, and I am grateful to be considered a pillar of the community. My experience as a committee person, local business owner, and community member provides me with a unique perspective to address the various challenges that our township faces. I will continue to prioritize the best interests of Tewksbury. If you would like to further discuss the town, feel free to come to the shop. We're located on Lamington Road at the traffic light. My cell number is 908-489-8182. And I'm serious. I'm not good at this. I knew I was going to blow it tonight. I worked with everybody for hours to go over this. Come and talk to me, and I'll tell you what's going on. Come to a meeting. Last week we spoke, and we talked about what our thoughts were, and you agreed. So that's what I'm all about. And I hope everybody has a great night. And everybody, thanks so much, and please don't forget to vote. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Mr. Voice?
Yes, I don't have a shop in town. I do have an office in Long Valley, however. So I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. What we have working for us right now in Town Hall is a team. And that team has developed over time. And that when I first joined Township Committee, it didn't behave that way. Basically, everything ran through an administrator. It was funneled up, down, and that way. And there was no subcommittees. There was no cross-communication between the employees and the Township Committee. And there was a lack of basically what I thought was transparency. So in 2006, the first year I was mayor, basically I created the 5 subcommittees that we still work with today. And those 5 committees work really well at establishing the team effort that has been going through Town Hall for service to our members. Because the one thing that the administrator, the prior administrator used to say all the time was no. I said, well, you can't keep saying no. You know, you have to listen to what people have to say, and you have to go through it, and you have to work through it and find out really what they're asking and see if you can help them. Because that's what this job is. This job is to help the people here in town to accomplish the lives that they want to maintain and to keep Tewksbury, Tewksbury. Thank you for your consideration. Please go to the voting booth.
Thank you. Mr. Becker?
Thank you. Thank you for coming out and becoming involved, and I hope you stay involved. I chose to run again because I think the Township Committee, they do a great deal of work, but they've lost touch. Change is inevitable, but progress needs a plan. We've put, particularly on, I put on the website, we've exposed ourselves. What has happened is that the Affordable Housing Subcommittee, we have members here that are, they put the Stavola and the wine property in. But if you look at the May 2024 minutes, you'll see that the state mortgage agency shut down the financing for that entire Oldwick Firehouse affordable unit. Why? Because we do not have a docketed settlement with the Fair Share Housing Council. That's another word for builders and developers in this state. So as much as one of my colleagues up here said earlier that we opted out of that litigation a few years ago, well, that's true, we did. 3 or 4 other towns did, and it was the right decision. We didn't lose them. We're in their sights, they just haven't come after us yet. And when you put a sitting committee member on there and you put those properties in there, and it's done in 2025 for a round 3 plan that started in 2010, was to be built by 2025, still is not done for round 3, and they've already talking about round 4 obligations. That has exposure and lawyers all over it. It's just a matter of time, and then we lose control because the Fair Share Housing Council now has a seat at the table and is going to help us define how much and where we put our housing. That is due to the delay by the Township Committee. It's deny and delay is not a solution to solve when the state tells you what to do. I hope I've earned your vote. I hope my job interview went well, and I hope I put my job, what I'd like to do out there. There's a lot of good things we can all do together, but it's time. Thank you very much for coming.
Monami?
Thank you. Thank you, as we all have said, thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you for listening to us, taking the time. Hopefully you'll go to all of our websites and see more details about us. Tewksbury is more than a place where we live, not only for myself, but I know for every one of us. It's a place where we're raising our families, where we're building our future together, and we need to work as a community. I'm stepping up to run now versus in the past. Like I said earlier, I believe that Tewksbury is at a turning point. There is so much change happening. We cannot continue to do business as usual. We need new perspectives on the board, on the committee. We need new people who have experience in terms of past government experience, building strategic plans, understanding the difference between a master plan and a strategic plan, because there are distinct differences, and being able to listen and hear from all of you. I feel that it is very important that all of you have a say. We will make sure, if I'm voted onto the committee, we will make sure that there are opportunities, if not quarterly, even more than that, whenever an important vote comes up, where their community can come out, and we'll get that information out there. We won't hide it on the website. We'll update the website. We will be transparent, we will have a strategic plan, and we will communicate. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fingerman?
Thank you. Thank you to the Tewksbury Connect, Tewksbury Times, everyone involved with this evening, to the school for letting us use the facility. It's an honor and a privilege to be up here tonight to have the opportunity to earn your vote. I'm running as, a parent of school-age children, a concerned citizen, somebody who loves this town. I've been here comparatively short time of just over 5 years, and I thank my wife, not every day, but often, for bringing me to Hunterdon County, where she grew up. And we love Tewksbury. And for me, when you love where you live, you want to be involved. You want to participate in governance. You want to participate in community in every way you can. That's what motivates me. I think that echoing some of what Deb said, there are periods of time where we need to take a look and say, while there's been a plan in place and things may be operating quite well, and I respect what Mr. Boyce said about that process and how things have improved, but as time goes on, we do need fresh thought, fresh ideas, people coming in and coming with solutions, and that's why I'm running. I, again, thank you all for being here and participating in this process together as a community. Thank you for the opportunity to earn your vote. I'll be here afterwards to chat, and so thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Let me just say on my part, I think you all did a very good job. I don't think any of you should be nervous about your performance. I think you did a fantastic job. As someone that has worked with elected officials for over 38 years, I think this was a great demonstration of civics, and I was very pleased that Edwin asked me to do this, and it's always great to be back in Tewksbury. So thank you again. And you forgot to mention my granddaughter.
Oh, and Ralph has a new granddaughter, and she's beautiful.
I'm that guy, that if you stop me, I will show you multiple pictures.
Do you have the bumper sticker yet?
No, not yet, but
Okay.
I'm ordering the T-shirt.
Oh, good, good. So thank you to all our candidates for participating tonight. This evening went much better than I had expected, so thanks, everyone. I believe all our candidates have indicated they will be available after the event to talk one-on-one with anybody who wishes to. We have to be out of here, I believe, by 10:30, so there's your time limit. But they all have websites and contact information, which is on www.tewksburyconnect.org. Look for our voters guide. There's contact information for these candidates and all the other candidates who had responded to us. No, we have people for that. I also want to take a moment to thank everybody at the school who helped to make this night possible. That includes, but is not limited to, Barbara Simcox from the superintendent's office, Nate Joyce, the OTS IT support person, and Dominic Pardo and Frank Henderson, OTS custodians, who helped us with the setup. We can't forget that it's sometimes the people we don't see who are important players in our little community. And thank you all, of course, for attending. I hope you've enjoyed being here. This is the kind of event that Tewksbury Connect wants to do more of in our effort to strengthen bonds within the community. To do more events, we need to increase funding. The Tewksbury Times, which is the first building block of our organization, is largely self-sufficient through advertising revenue, and while we will always have space for local businesses to advertise to local customers, we do not like having to be so dependent on advertising revenue, or worse, risk the possibility of sacrificing space for news of local events in pursuit of revenue. In addition to publishing the Tewksbury Times, tonight's event, our participation in the Harvest Festival, our web hosting, and the social and informational projects we would like to do are all dependent on donations from the people we want to serve. We are very fortunate to have a few generous donors. However, our goal is to have participation from every household in the township. We're not looking for a lot, just $2 a month. $25 a year from each household would more than cover our annual budget. $2 a month. Many of us spend more than that every day on coffee. $2 a month. Isn't it worth that for the Tewksbury Times, block parties, candidates nights, trivia nights, guest lectures, potluck suppers, or other gatherings we haven't even thought of yet? We're really looking for ways to bring people together, and we need your help to do that. Oh. Here's the pitch. You can donate by credit card at www.tewksburyconnect.org. The URL is always printed on the back page of the Tewksbury Times. Or we have donor cards with self-addressed envelopes on the table by the door at the exit. Of course, if you want to give more than $2 a month, we're not going to try to dissuade you from that. But really what's important to us is getting 100% participation from all households in the township, because Tewksbury Connect is for everyone. So thank you, everybody, and good night.